everyone, it's me, Man Alone, and yeah, I'm happy you're here. Today We're gonna start the first video in which I teach you how to play across 1,000 Dead Worlds, and my hope is that through a series of videos, I can provide a comprehensive guide for playing this game that I consider to be awesome. One of the definitely top two or three, at least, solo sci-fi RPGs out there. Across 1,000 Dead Worlds is a sci-fi horror RPG created by Alex T of Black Oath Entertainment, blackoathgames.com. Came out in 2023 and comes with this beautiful hardcover book that has a couple freebies included, and most importantly, a ribbon. As you can see on the top of the page, I have this little X marking where we are in the video. I will do my level best to advance it as we go through things. I did have a previous video that I published on combat, but that was more of like a live video where I was just reading through the combat rules, attempting to understand them myself. I will say that that is the part of the game that I still continue to have difficulties with. And I am trying to determine, this is actually the third time I've recorded this video because each time I get really bogged down in combat. Now, there are two options for combat in this game, and one of them takes place on a hexagonal grid. And those of you that are used to wargaming, this will be very second nature and very appealing to you. Now, it is appealing to me, but in an aspirational way. I'm just not very good at this, and I'm not very tuned to this sort of thing. I'm not very good at sort of spatial strategizing, and I usually play in theater of the mind, but I would like to learn how to do this. And so that's what the other two videos have been about, is me attempting to explain it, because this whole thing is my attempt to really teach myself through teaching you. Teaching others is the best way that I learn things. I read the book and then I teach it to you to make sure I have it down. Now, because I didn't write this game, I don't guarantee that I have everything 100% correct. So if you hear anything that's wrong, please make a comment down in the comments. But I'm going to try my level best, and I'm also going to do something that I'm normally not very comfortable with, which is like moving along at a good clip and also pausing the video if I don't know something, rather than just sort of lingering and waffling. Really quickly, if you are interested in the Fate Mill, you can still get 20% off this and everything else on Tower House Creative's website, towerhousecreative.com. I do believe that the Fate Mill is this 20-sided die that functions not only as a 20-sided die, but a ready-made oracle. And I really think it's a must-have for any solo RPG player, and it's made by a solo RPG player, which I think is meaningful, because this is a great community. And to see more of what our community has to offer, please make sure that you're following along on the Solo RPG Month collaborative solo round robin that I started a few days ago. It's basically a series of 15 minutes where we carry one character between many different solo RPG players. If you're still interested, you can email me at amanalone@proton.me. But I must say, at this point, we're up to about 10 or 12 people. And so unless somebody drops or we have some switches, you'd probably be in a reserve position for now. But we'll probably do this again. So shoot me an email. It's possible we could still fit you in. But yeah, I also just want to say before... Oh, by the way, towerhousecreative.com, using the promo code MANALONE20 for 20% off. Okay, I'll put it down in the details. I also just feel like really compelled to make this video because I generally want to increase the amount of content regarding across 1,000 Dead Worlds. I don't want to be over dramatic, but I simply don't understand why there are not 1,000 videos on this book. This book, I think, is the system here, the game, everything here is certainly in the same category as Starforged, Ironsworn. And Ironsworn is a spectacular game, by the way. Sean Tompkin is kickstarting Sundered Isles, which is a new like high seas pirate sort of addition to that. So check that out. But I really want this game to get more love because I Grim Jim has some content on it, like a review of it and 2 after session reports. God bless him for doing such a amazing solo sessions on that, because this is somebody who repeatedly has said they don't get solo RPGs. So for somebody to like keep having that mindset and to continue to do that, and then like creating such incredible reports on that, it was just awesome to see. And then Mel Lee has 2 videos on this that are quite comprehensive, but I so wish they had continued them because they were so good. And then it was a little bit of a review and an overview and a playthrough, and then they just stopped after 2. I'm not sure if they've uploaded videos in a while, but other than that, Dave Thomavor has a review of it that's really good. There's a few other videos, but there's like at most 10, and one of them is mine. So I just want more people playing this game, talking about this game. I don't think it has anything to do with the content of the game itself, that it's not very YouTube saturated like other things. I just think there's some like weird, like unfathomable currents, pardon the pun, but there's like certain moments where certain things just get more attention and don't. But like what the best thing is that sometimes games that are out for a while just suddenly get an uptick in attention. And so I'm certain that has sold a lot. Well, I'm not certain of that. I believe it has to have, because I hear about it on Reddit and other sites, but I just don't see enough content of it. And so I really hope if you're watching this right now and you're interested in playing this, that maybe this video series will help you to boot up and start playing, and maybe make a video of your own, because I just think we need to be talking about this more. Not only is this a great solo game, it's made for cooperative, and you can also run it with a GM and up to 5 players. And so this is just, I just don't get it. It's so damn good. So we really should be playing it more. And maybe this is it. Maybe we just need like this to just start talking about it more often. Okay. So I'm going to get up to combat today, and I'm probably not going to talk about combat other than the basic combat sequence. I'll lead off on the next video, because I do have a running list of questions I've been keeping that I'm confused about, that I'm actually going to email Alex about, or maybe put up on a discussion board or something. Again, I think it's maybe that I'm just reading things wrong or stuff like that, but okay. So 8 minutes in is when we're actually going to start. All right. So just to give an overview of Across 1,000 Dead Worlds. And by the way, I will be using the actual book here, but because I want people to buy this book, I'm quite certain that Alex would be okay with it if I actually shared the PDF which comes with it. But I wish to. I think we should invest in RPG authors and companies that maybe are not made of mages or are not coastal or something like that. And so because of that, I want you to buy this. And so I want you to keep a little bit of blood on your fangs about it. And I just think if I scroll through it, then I would be basically giving away like a free PDF. Now, the system reference document, the SRD, is available for free on the website. And it basically has all the text in the book. It's basically in like a Word document, okay? But it has all of the information, and so we'll be using this just to go through it because it's free to everybody. And then I'll have the book here, which I guess you could do like the CSI Miami thing and like pause the video 6,000 times and keep saying enhance, enhance, enhance. And so you could Scrabble yourself a PDF of this, but just don't do it. I've been so miserable today. I can't take it. A person stealing a PDF from my video. I just don't even want to know it anymore. I don't want the world to be that way. Okay. Last thing I'll say, this walkthrough is going to assume that you know basic RPG terminology, skill checks, what it means when it says D10, D20, etc. If you don't know that, maybe come back later when you get it. Okay. So let me give it a little bit of overview of the situation here. Across 1,000 Dead Worlds has a sweet gameplay loop that is easy to grok, and this is very important. I will use Starforged as a comparison at times during this because it is a comparison. There's other comparisons to make. But Starforged, I feel, is a good cognate for this. And when I do that, it's not because I'm like shitting on Starforged or saying this game's better or anything like that. I just think it's one that more people are familiar with and is a good point of contrast. And so one of the things with Starforged that can be a little bit intimidating to new players is like they will go through the process that is like so fun in and of itself to build their character, to figure out what their Iron Vow is, to figure out what kind of world they're in. Does, psychic powers exist there? What kind of government's there? Why did they get to the forge, etc.? But then you hear a lot of people that do all that. They're feeling hyped, and then they're like, okay, now go. And they feel like, oh man, what do? I don't know what to do. Now, I think that's a natural part of being sort of a novice solo player. And it's something that people have to work through. And the answer to that is always anything. Just do something. Go ahead and do something. But I do like the fact that there is like built into the plot in this game a definitive loop. And the loop is this. You have this Karam station, which is built around an asteroid that is owned by a corporation called Drake Industries. Today. And the station is called Karam Station, Karum. This takes place at the end of the 21st century. There was a little bit of an expansion of space travel. They were able to fly out farther. And so there was this big sort of like land grab, but in outer space. And Drake Industries definitely did not have the biggest piece of the pie. There were other big players who were dominating the game. But Drake Industries did have one thing, which is that they found an asteroid that looked like any other asteroid, but inside of it was a butt ton of ships that were made by some sort of ancient alien race called the Arsai. And it's a Scottish Gaelic word. And let me find it here. So this is like Arsai right here. It looks like it's Arsaid, but they do offer a little bit of a pronunciation thing, and it looks like Arsai. It doesn't even seem that you pronounce the D. And that's a Scottish Gaelic word. It means ancient. That is not what they were actually called. We don't know what they were called because they're around maybe millions of years ago. We don't have any bodies, recordings, or anything. They were a very utilitarian race. The ships that they found had nothing that would be discernible as like controls. They just had like lights, squares. And they hold either 1, 3, or 5 people. And Drake Industries was not necessarily able to figure out how to program them or anything, but they were able to get it so that they could boot them up. And then the ships, as far as I understand, kind of have a mind of their own. They go somewhere. And once they're there, people get off and they try to find resources in these far off lands. And that's where you come in. Your character is what is known as a deep diver. A deep diver is somebody who goes out to this asteroid, docks at Karam Station, preps for a mission with solo or a crew, and then goes on one of these ships, and after about 7 weeks of travel, arrives at a site, a distant planet, or I guess could be any sort of celestial body, hopefully not a star. And they get out and they explore for xenotechnology, alien technology, perhaps biotechnology, but the most precious thing that they're looking for is a special kind of metal that I believe is called A metal or Arsai metal, which Alex T himself admits in the glossary, this creatively named metal. But what's interesting about this metal is that it's incredibly strong. It's incredibly potential, has like a lot of energy to it. But the problem is once it's turned into something, it cannot be reverse engineered. And so this is to say that, like, for instance, the ships are made out of this metal, but they've already been made into a ship, and there's no way to unmake that ship. So the real, precious thing that we're looking for here is these sort of unformed cubes of that stuff. I think I'm safe to say. I think it's cubes. Could be some like a unit of it. Okay. And that stuff, finding those kind of things is going to net you, when you get back to Karam Station, that is what's going to be able to be traded for experience points. Okay. There's also like the coin of the realm literally is Drake coins. DC, and you trade in your valuables, whatever you obtain, for DC, and every 1,000 DC, the Drake coins that are traded into the Karam Station Authority, you get 1,000 XP, and if you get it every time you get 1,000 XP, you level up. So when you level up, you get new talents. On even levels, you get a new skill point, and every 3 levels, you get an attribute point. So that right there is the loop. Karam Station is a convivial place. People there are going on missions where the rate of death is huge. Here, board this ship. You don't understand it. It's going to take you somewhere where you don't know, and you're going to meet some creatures there you've never seen. Good luck. And so everyone there is trying to have a good time because they don't know if this is the end. Why would anyone do this? Well, Earth is destroyed. The resources have been used up. There is chaos, unrest, and it's not a good place. And the other places to be are settled already by the upper crust. And so if you're a person who could save up enough money or win a lottery or whatever, have a connection, you can get yourself a ticket to Karam Station and take on this extremely dangerous job for a chance at something better, something like panning for gold, right? You're going out west, a lot of hazards out there. But people do it because there's not a lot of other opportunities. And as you create your character, you're going to find out more why that is. You're on Karam Station. You'll be staying maybe at a hotel. You'll be paying a tax every day for the privilege of getting air and heat and stuff. And, that's a time where you can develop your character, develop the world, meet other NPCs. Then you're going to prep for your mission, determine what gear you get, figure out your crew. You're going to board a ship and travel, and you actually have some role-playing mechanics during that travel. And then you're going to go on a site, create the site, and go find these valuables. Gosh, I hope that this song is not copyrighted because I don't even know what it is, but we'll just keep listening because it's nice. It's a little banjo. So you'll kind of go out, get that, and then once you've gotten enough, you'll go back to Karam Station, turn it in, and repeat the loop. Now, you might think, wow, that's kind of boring. There's nothing to do except go back and forth from this Karam Station. The only reason that loop exists is to be a vehicle for the true purpose of this game, which is to confront your player character and their crew with ineffable horrors of deep space, right? Yes, they're doing this job. That's the name of the game. That's going to allow us to have a progression mechanic. But the real deal here is going to these mysterious places, seeing things you never even knew existed and cannot even really conceptualize. And that's what's going to be this vehicle that's going to keep running. It's going to run itself so that you're never wondering, what do I do next? And I think this is part of the true genius of the game, is a nice, tight loop of activity. Okay. And you don't really get loot from defeating enemies because you got to think of it as like aliens, right? You don't see in those movies usually, even the most gung-ho people aren't like, oh, I've got to kill 5 more aliens to get my loot boxes. No, they're like, my God, I hope I never see one of those again. And if I do see one, I'm going to run, hide, or try to shoot it before it pulls me apart, which is not, you usually lose. And so, yeah, I think that is just a great setup. And I love it because, especially for new players, I think you'll find a lot of comfort in this and a lot of direction, and it will help you to explore the world better, knowing where you're coming from and where you're going. All right. So character creation wise, let me just move my little X marks the spot down so people could trace it on the video. Character creation, not many surprises here. The sheet looks a bit busy at first, but I could tell you that there is a fillable form on across1000deadworlds.com. And brother, I love it. I know it looks a little busy, but trust me when I say that once you fill it in, there is a rhyme and reason to all of it. And it's crisp and clear. And maybe this is just like having dealt with such bad character sheets recently. Like, it seems like every fillable PDF sucks. And so to have one where what you write is super clear, where the check marks auto fill in and you can check them on and off at will, and you don't screw up the whole document when I do that, it makes me want to cry. Okay. So you start your newly trained deep diver on level 1. And the Earth's ocean died. You're going to venture into cold, vast unknowns to recover lost treasures and bring them to the light of humanity. Primary attributes are what you'd expect. They are the standards. And then the secondary attributes, more like resources of luck. Luck's like inspiration. You could spend 1 luck to re-roll. You could spend 3 luck to negate a killing blow. You'll start with 3 luck, you spend all of your luck to negate a killing blow. You start with 3 luck and you recover 1 a session up to a max of 5. Stamina is this resource that functions a lot. Well, it's kind of clever. I want to see how it plays out when I play, but basically stamina is spent during each round by your character to do their actions. Different actions cost different amounts of stamina. Functionally, it works the same as like D&D or anything, where it's like 1 move, 1 attack with a little bit of modification. Some attacks you can like add a plus D6 to it by doing a heavy attack, but it's going to cost 8 stamina. And then you don't have anything left to move because you need 5 stamina to move. So you can make choices like that. Lots of combat choices, which depending on your orientation of how you like combat, if you like it really crunchy and a lot of different strategic things to consider, you're going to salivate. And if you're overwhelmed by those many options and you would rather just kind of play it out in theater of the mind, you might be a little bit overwhelmed, but we'll try to make it simple. And again, there's 2 combat options, and we'll learn about zone combat as well. If I truly can't understand grid combat, I'll just introduce it. But I've tried to explain it twice, and I'm now good at it. So I don't want to confuse people. Much like Death in Space or Mothership, or I think Alien from Free League, there's a stress mechanic, and you start with 0 stress, but a lot of things give you more stress. Entering into combat gives you stress. Seeing things give you stress. You could get stress from claustrophobia, spending too much time in space, getting in conflicts with your crew. And as the stress goes up, at first it just kind of manifests as anxiety. Maybe you have a little bit of a nervous tick. Maybe you have a lower frustration tolerance. And then it keeps going, and soon you're, having visions and seeing apparitions and starting to wonder what your crewmates taste like. And then wounds is the name of the game here. There's no HP. An attack only hurts an enemy if the damage of it exceeds their constitution. They get a wound. Okay. There is a mechanic called lingering damage. If you're having a lot of frustration, this might be helpful for solo gaming, where you can sort of, every subsequent time you hit them, you add another D4, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, you get 3 wounds, and each of the enemies, the opponents, have a varying amount of wounds. And so if they have a constitution of 10 and you hit them for 8, it's not going to take off a wound. And I kind of like it because, again, it's like, it makes more sense. A lot more sense than like being riddled with 55 bullets as a human, but you have 56 HP, and so you're still standing. Okay. Moving down, we have skills. There's quite a few options here with skills, but nowhere near as how many are in some PBTA games. No surprises really. You distribute 70 points across these. Arcite technology starts at -5 because nobody knows what the hell it is. But otherwise, you're going to distribute these 70 points across these skills with no more than 10 points on a skill. And I should say, too, for attributes, each of them are set to 8, and then you can distribute 12 points among them up to 18. They can never be above 18 permanently, but it's like sometimes, I guess, if you take like stim or something like that, or wear some gear, it can get higher. But yeah, a lot of these skills are... should be pretty familiar. And, if you don't know what skill to use, obviously you'll default to whatever attribute makes the most sense. Strength, dexterity, constitution. If you can't tell which attribute makes the most sense, what I recommend is a very complicated strategy called making the fart sound with your mouth and then just pointing. I don't know what to use. Will. Good. Talents you can think of as like powers. You could have 5 of them at a time. Every time you level up, you get to roll on this table and add one. If you add a duplicate, you roll again. If you add more than 5, you have to discard one, which is one of those things that I really don't like, but have no better. I have one second. Sorry, my camera was running out of batteries. So yeah, I don't love this, that if you have 5 talents already and you get a new one, you have to discard an existing talent. Because it's like, what, if I know how to hula hoop and then I learn how to jump rope, I don't know how to hula hoop anymore. I just wish there was a better way to do this, but I don't know one and I can't figure it out. So I guess I can't complain about it because this is in quite a few games. And from a mechanics perspective, it makes sense because if you're just adding tons of talents, then what, you're like the talent show and you're just going to become really OP. But I wish you could like trade them in for something, or maybe like, I don't know. Maybe that's the best we can do. It gives a couple recommendations based on archetypes here of what kind of initial talent, because you get one talent to start with. I found when you're solo playing, some of these might be good. Some of these would be next to useless. These are more if you're trying to put together a crack squad. Like, for instance, everyone calm down. If you're playing solo, it's like, it kind of seems crazy. You're like, everyone just calm down. And you're just by yourself. I chose calm for my character because this one seems like it'll pay the most dividends right away, which is each time you gain stress, you gain 1 less. Which I should also say, if you have a really good resolve, withstand the psychological impact of exposure to void horrors. Each time a character would gain any amount of stress, they may roll a resolve check to reduce that to 1. So my resolve is 10, and I like that. The character I created, Adrian Ilgaz, who after I teach you how to play, ergo teaching myself how to play, Adrian has, this is a plastic miner who's somebody who has a lot of discipline, resolve, sort of quiet persistence. I'm really looking forward to playing this. And I will say that, this is part of my process when I learn how to play solo games, is just trying to find out what I need to know, that especially because there's some stuff you can look up, but there's some stuff that you just need, you're going to be using it a lot. And so the reason, besides the aforementioned reasons that I am making this video, is also because I was doing my normal habit of transferring all the tables I thought I would need regularly into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I was like, you know what? I shouldn't just be like doing this alone. I think it'll help me better if I share this with others. But I will, if I finish that Excel sheet, I can share that. I'm not quite done yet. Most of the problem is like formatting. Lots of different talents. You're going to notice right away, this is a real strength of this book, is there is lots and lots of stuff. You could play through this game several times and have full different experiences. Your background, this is where we start to learn who your character is. Now, Geek Gamers, for example, de-emphasizes the full creation of a character before the game starts. And I agree to an extent. By over-determining the character, we should be making the character in response to the world that we're inhabiting and the play. But I do disagree a bit for my play style, because the way that I role play is I take some time to understand this character so that I'm not choosing their actions. I'm just realizing the actions that they would make. It cuts down on the decision fatigue for me when I get to understand what motivates a character, less often as I'm going, let's see, what would they do? And instead going, oh, of course, this is what they would do, right? It just becomes automatic and there's less cognitive load. So my character is, like I said, a plastic miner, so we could look at that one. Years spent in the old world's plastic deposits were enough to make you want to leave the planet for good. Nothing out there could possibly be worse. And you also get then a +1 medical aid or +1 survival to add to your skill, your choice. In my previous video, I added both by accident. It is an or. And then a life-changing event, another thing that's going to add some color to this. This is something... I think this is a good question to ask yourself of a character in any role-playing game. What's the pivotal point? Why are you the way that you are? I know there's many little streams, but what's the big river? How did you earn your place? You know, you can come up with your own reasons for this, but I would say on the first time, choose one of these four, because this seems to be the way that a lot of people make it there. And I would say that, you know, you don't want to choose something that's then going to conflict to the reality of the world that you're building that you don't know what it is yet. And finally, the drive. I would say that, you know, this is the fundamental value or notion that compels you toward this. And I think there's a good list of, this is most of why anybody does anything. The only one I'd say that is not as common is espionage. You just don't hear that very often, you know. Tell us why you'd be good for this job. Well, I've always wanted to do espionage, and I really think I could spy on a lot of people here. You're hired. Okay, mannerisms, fine. Nervous tics. I think these are more nervous behaviors. I think I wouldn't call biting your nails a tick, but maybe that's just because I bite my nails, and so. And then, yeah, this is the rules for improving your character. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's keep going. Let's go to the basic rules here. We've already said a lot of these. Attribute checks. We know about that. Again, roll over D20, and there's some ways to modify that D20, but I'm also going to recommend that you don't go overboard with that. Skill checks are the same. You want to add your skill level to a D20 and check it out. Performing non-skill actions. Yep, just use an attribute. Assisting. This works different in some other games, but this system is common as well, which is if both characters are in a position to do something together, you don't roll both of them. You roll your skill check, but then you just add 2. As long as they're able to be undistracted and able to see what they're doing. And then opposed checks, I like to call this the over-the-top check from the Academy Award overlooked movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone, where he plays an arm wrestling tournament to win a new truck for his business. And so if you wanted to arm wrestle another PC, you would both roll a D20, add your strength, and whoever's higher would win the truck. Advantage and disadvantage. You have to see if there is good prescriptiveness in here for what creates this, determines this, but it basically says when for any reason you have advantage. Oop, I think this is copyrighted, so I'm going to pause for 1 second. Okay, sorry, it just started auto playing a song that I think was under copyright, and it's not like I care about demonetization. I get 17 cents a video, but I just didn't want there to be any unnecessary ads on this video. Okay. Yeah, so it's not, as far as I can see yet, there's not too many good advices about when to implement advantage and disadvantage. And one of the problems is there's too many of these things that can start to stack on one another that can make a very simple thing complicated, right? So again, let's look at it as simplest way. I want to make a check. I want to open a trunk that is locked, and I need to hit it open with a crowbar. I'm going to roll a D20, 19. If it was a 20, I would get a crit. And then I add my strength. Say it's 10, it's a 29. 29 is over 20, so I open the chest. But let's just say that my wrist is hurting me. Well, now I would roll a disadvantage, which means I would roll 2. Well, let's not use the Fate Mill. It's got a little too much on it. I rolled 2 here, and because I have disadvantage, I get rid of that one, and I've now rolled a 3. Now I rolled a 13, and that does not open it. But now let's say that I want to open this chest, but it is an adamantium chest, and my wrist hurts. And so now I'm going to roll 2d20. I'm going to take the lower result. I am going to then add my strength, which is 10, 17, not over 20. But anyways, it's adamantium, and so my roll is a minus 10. So I've rolled a 7. Are you seeing what I'm seeing here now? Now, here's the final part. Say I want to open a chest, and my wrist hurts, and it's adamantium. And I roll 2 dice, and I take the lower one. Okay. Now, let's just say, let's actually say that I rolled a, just to illustrate it, I rolled a 16, okay? With disadvantage, I rolled a 16. Great roll with a disadvantage. I'm going to add my strength, 10. It's 26. All right. And what else did I say here? I said it's very difficult. Let's just say it's demanding. Okay, so I'm -5. And now I'm at a 21. I still open the chest, right? But I now look and I opened it just normal. Okay. That doesn't matter for the chest because just opening the chest is yes or no. But suppose that I'm trying to convince somebody of something. Say I'm trying to convince someone to let me into a nightclub. Okay. And I don't have my papers on the carom station to get into it. And so now I'm rolling, with whatever reason for a disadvantage. And again, just to illustrate this point, I'm going to say I roll with a disadvantage. I take the lower roll. I add my charisma, which is 8. I'm at 25. Okay. And the difficulty of it was easy, which means it's a 5 plus 25 is 30. And then I have to look at the success level, and that's a great success level. And so that means I really got in, and I got a nice VIP pass. Now, that could be really fun to figure that out, or that could be a pain in the ass. So all I'm trying to say with all this is, if you're new to the game and trying to figure it out, what I would recommend is when you have to get into the club, roll a D20 and add your charisma. And be done with it if it's over 20, because I think it's really easy to get into the weeds here. Now, this is actually a strength of this game, is that there are some people who want that granularity. And in certain ways, I do too. But not everyone does. And so sometimes I think that could make a very simple transaction in the game get very complicated. And that comes up in a couple of ways in this game. And there's always, Alex T does a great job of offering different alternatives. So this is no judges on that. There's ways to do it easily. But again, who I think of during a lot of my videos are people who are really curious about starting solo play and they just feel super overwhelmed. I want to just make sure that those individuals know that it doesn't have to be that complicated. Okay, tracking gear. There are gear slots, the 15 of them. Anything you're wearing does not count in the gear slot. You could hold light items in your pockets up to 10, but if you hold 10, that equals 1 gear slot. You also can't double up. You can't wear 15 shirts. Okay. So it's not like me when I was going swimming in 7th grade and I wore 10 shirts over my body and I said, oh, it's because I don't want to get sunburned. Well, I didn't get sunburned. But I didn't get friends either. No, I'm just kidding. I had plenty of friends. Okay, so holding in your hands doesn't do anything. Stealth we'll have to talk about in combat. Stealth is a little bit tricky. And in fact, I think I'm going to stop there so that I can get my ducks in a row regarding combat. But just as a bit of an oeuvre, I think that the best thing to look at to familiarize yourself with the most basic melee combat is, in fact, this little section on the bottom of the combat encounter sheet. And it's got this basic combat sequence that is, I think, the most distilled version of how to do combat here. Roll a D10 for initiative. Whoever goes first. Say you want to go attack, you use 5 of your stamina to run up on the grid here and attack. You can go 1, if you're like a humanoid, you can go 1 hex. You make an attack and you roll D20 and add your melee attack skill. But guess what? You're not the only one who can attack, right? If someone runs up to you with a bat, they're going to hit back, like I said. So they're also going to roll D20 plus their combat attack skill. And if they're an enemy, they just have an attack skill. It's not broken down into like ranged or melee. Assuming that yours is higher because you also get a +2 since you're the one initiating the attack, you then roll for damage. At baseline, every time you will always roll a D10. A D10 is the base damage roll. All right. and then you will add whatever your weapon is. And then you'll also roll a location where you're going to hit them on the body. Again, this is something that for new players, you could be like, oh, Maron, I got to roll and I got to hit to see which toe I hit them in. It's not that hard. And also, you could just add a +1 every time. Or you can roll and say, when it's even, I roll a +1. And when it's odd, I roll a -1. And if it's, whatever. Or you just ignore it. Okay. And then the thing, again, is we're not working on HP, though. Your attack has to be greater than their constitution. So if their constitution's an 8, you have to roll at least a 9. And then if you do, they're going to get knocked down. They're going to be rolling with disadvantage. They can only move 1 square, so they're going to be backing up from you. Please, please. And they're going to have to roll a recovery check each time to stand back up. And meanwhile, if you hit them again while they're on the ground, they get a wound. And I got to tell you, a lot of, or at least a good number of the creatures in this, they don't have 3 wounds like you. They only have 1. But again, there's this lingering damage effect that allows you to sort of stack if you're having trouble. I bet we'll use that for solo play. But we'll lead. I'm so nervous about I'm not actually nervous, but I'm stressed about combat because I really want to try and understand it so well that I could teach it to you without the book. So that's going to be my goal. But otherwise, we'll leave off there. When this series of videos is done, then we'll jump right out and you can follow the adventures of Adrian Ilgaz. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Again, this is Across 1,000 Dead Worlds, and it is from blackoathgames.com. Please go ahead and pick up your copy, as well as many of the other offerings that Alex has there. And I should add that thanks to very gracious from Alex, requiring nothing of me, but just wanted me to try 2 additional games. So those are on the way, and we'll certainly do a review and maybe a playthrough of those in due course. But right now, it's all about these dead worlds, friends. And so hope that you could pick up a copy, at least the PDF. I know that's probably on drive-through. And otherwise, keep following the solo RPG round robin. You can find links for it on my community page. This is a great month to be a solo RPG player. Good night.